Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the longest break that you've ever seen. I said I'd be back in a week, but it took 5 months. Still on season five, episode I don't know right now. But I think it's episode 20. I think it's episode 25 or 26. I can't remember because I know we said we had 30 episodes to do for this before we left off. But today we welcome back into it with Dr. Janelle today, coming all the way from South Carolina.
I am. Super excited to be with you.
Thank you. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. So let's see. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist with a certification in eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, which is the EMDR part of my title.
Hmm.
And I have a bachelor's in business communications that I decided I needed to take in a different direction because my parents were ministers. And back in that time, they ran our marriage excellence ministry and finance ministries. And so I saw people coming in and out of the church and counseling and so forth. And they seemed not to be walking away with some of the practical tools that I recognized were missing. But that's because we were really working from a largely spiritual foundation. And sometimes we can get spooky ooky without taking
Hmm.
time to figure out what the steps are. And it's easier to do when you're talking about finance, right? You can
Hmm.
put together a budget and determine who's going to pay the bills. But when you're talking about relationships and mental health becomes a part of that, it can be
Hmm.
very, very challenging. So I went back to school and got my master's in marriage and family therapy, and then went and got my PhD in counselor education and supervision, because I think it's important that I take the time to teach those who don't look like us and who do, because all
Correct.
skin folk ain't kin folk, right?
Correct.
But to teach them how to really be more culturally humble as
Hmm.
they're applying that cultural competence from the textbooks. And so that made a lot of sense to do. So now I spend my days traveling the world, literally teaching other counselors, working with couples and individuals and singles and all the people who want to get into dating and divorcing and you name it, all the things that have
Hmm.
to do with relationships. But my twist is that I recognize that there's this mental health component, that
Correct.
sometimes we just need to know how to function differently, and it could potentially change the entire way that we look at our relationships.
Okay. So I know when we talked through the email, and the first thing that pointed out to me was that you spoke on unresolved trauma, and how it is mistaken for incompatibility. Like, how does that
Yeah. Well, sometimes what happens, so both of it's books that I've written, right? So the first one
Mhm.
being Into Me See, Mastering Black Intimacy for the Relationship You've Always Wanted. And the other one being Strategic Emotional Resilience, which is all
Mhm.
about mastering your inner world for a life of power, purpose, and peace. And what generally ends up happening is that we grow up in these environments that are fairly traumatic. And
Mhm.
it's different depending on the culture you're growing up in, but
Mhm.
a lot of similarities, right? And then, so when we recognize that we're not communicating well, or someone isn't communicating well, or maybe they have a misogynistic perspective, or there's the domineering on both ends of the gender side, that a lot of that has more to do with anxiety and depression, and sometimes environmental conditions that create personality disorders, more so than it does with compatibility. Now, that being said, if you don't like somebody, you don't like somebody,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So let's
That's
not
correct.
get that twisted, right? But at the same time, we recognize that we're only born with six emotions, born with, right?
Okay.
And that's happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust.
Mhm.
So someone has to be able to teach you the thousands of others that exist. And if you grow
Right.
up in an environment where all they function out of is those six,
Mhm.
then the trauma that you experience, you don't even know that it's disappointment. You're busy being angry.
Right.
The
which
trauma
is
that you experience, you don't recognize it as the anxiety of the space. You just register it as sadness.
correct. So say, you're registering those things, as you said, a disappointment and sadness, but as you grow through adulthood and you start getting into these relationships and things that happen as a child, you start
Hmm.
seeing things happening at this level, but it's not going the same way that you saw as a child. It's just showing certain elements of it, but it's totally different. Can you actually, how do you get that
So,
emotion to agree with it?
well, you have to know how to function in a particular emotion, right?
Right.
If you don't know, if you think about it like this, if you operate out of anger, most people who are angry are going to be yelling. You have some people who are more covert with it, right? They're
Right.
introverted, so they might, become more sullen and isolated. But most people are going to be yelling, maybe even throwing things, cussing people out, making very wild, verbose, dramatic ways of functioning. Well, that's the same as the temper tantrum that was thrown as a child. The only difference is that you may not throw yourself on the ground and you might not kick and scream in that way, but you're
Right.
still doing the same thing as an adult.
Okay.
If you don't learn how to function and understand that you're really disappointed about something not happening and not angry,
Mm-hmm.
then you won't recognize and register that as I can do something different about disappointment. Just like
Right.
I can choose not to be angry, right? But with disappointment, I can now stop and say, what is it exactly about the situation that disappoints me? Well, it disappoints me that you're not taking an opportunity to make me a priority. Well, what does it look like for me to be a priority? Well, that means that when I call you, that you answer the phone. Well, what if if I'm in a meeting and I can't answer the phone? How long do I have to call you back? Well, if you say 3 minutes, my meeting may not be over in 3 minutes.
Right.
But if you could say, okay, give me a couple of hours, I'm going to give you a call back. Why does that have to equal abandonment at that moment? But if you
Correct.
never learn that, okay, I'm just disappointed, so let's talk about what it looks like for me to work through this disappointment, then you'll run around being angry all the time.
Right.
It's the only thing you learned how to do.
So, so why might someone push a person away even though they want the connection?
Hmm. Because they fear that experience, right? So if I
Mhm.
experienced abandonment, rejection in childhood, and that didn't feel very good, right? I really found myself hurting, feeling forgotten, afraid, that I don't want to experience that again. So if you demonstrate the same characteristics that I think I saw in my mother or father or caregiver, then I'm more likely going to say, I don't want to be near that. Now, in most instances, they pull that in because they want to make you love them, right?
Mhm.
Which becomes a whole nother codependent kind of situation. But in many situations, they're pushing a person away because they don't want to experience what they experienced before. And that pain is very visceral and can be felt in the body. It's the
Mhm.
emotion itself can be felt in the stomach, tightness in the chest with heart palpitations and not being able to catch your breath. So there's shortness of breath. You can't think clearly, right? So those are feelings that people have a tendency to run from. So they either push the person away or they pull them in because they believe they can make them love them differently.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh, now you trying to pull them in to make you love them love you differently, but you might not be equipped to do that because everybody love different. Everybody receives love different.
Hmm.
Like I'll say for like I'm trying to figure an example, but I mean, as a child, they feel like love is like, when you giving hugs and you do all of that. They don't know how, when you get older, just remembering certain things or just doing certain things just because it's just genuine, that's just showing the love.
Hmm.
but you're trying to bring somebody in who's like, I'm never going to be like that. I'm just here. I guess they'll say I'm just here for a ride, just for the time being.
Hmm.
Like, how do
Well,
you,
I mean, that means that you have to be able to hear that. Oftentimes, when people fall into cognitive distortions where, they can hear what someone say, and on one hand, oh, I love you and I really want to be with you, and they don't hear tonight at the end of that statement,
right?
then they put that as the entirety of the relationship.
Well,
But
that's
that person is
crazy.
really,
That's crazy.
how is that crazy? That makes sense.
It doesn't, if you don't hear tonight, that doesn't, that makes crazy because if I'm telling you this, that means like the overall,
Mm,
the overall totality is like this is what it is. I love you. I don't have to say today, tonight, tomorrow. I think that's crazy right there. If you
well,
have to say
if
tonight,
you're the person who's saying that, right? Because some people do put a disclaimer on it. I want to be here tonight. I want to be here this evening. They're not saying I want to be with you for the rest of your life. So you have to truly be listening to what people are saying. And
no,
sometimes people, oh,
I
wait,
get that
wait,
part.
wait, wait, wait. I didn't mean tonight, right? But in all actuality, they meant tonight.
Well,
It
no, I
just
get that.
slipped
If
up,
you
right?
say I want like tonight, you're here tonight. We're doing the
Hmm.
show tonight. I understand it. But if I'm in a
Hmm.
full fledged relationship with somebody, I'm not gonna need to hear tonight. If I hear tonight, that's like, okay, I just met you today. Yeah, you're here tonight. You're not gonna be here tomorrow. That's what I hear right there. But if we're in a full fledged relationship, we've been
Oh,
together for years, I don't
oh,
need to hear tonight or tomorrow. Because
you would be
I mean,
surprised.
yeah, but if I hear that, it's like, if now from the opposite
Hmm.
view, from the opposite section, if I hear tonight, I'm like, hold on, so what the hell you going tomorrow?
Well, that is, um, the way in which people communicate sometimes, right?
Hmm.
And particularly when relationships are falling apart or they're becoming distant, someone may say something like that, not recognizing that what they said is really the Freudian slip of what they wanted and what they meant.
Mm.
In the early stages, I mean, I've had clients that, we crack up because, they will have met someone on an app and maybe they've spoken a couple times. And let's say this guy says, all right, baby, I'll talk to you later. And they're like, oh, we go together real bad, right? I'm like, no, 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 hold on. You just met this person. You've only been having a conversation with them 3 or 4 times. Yeah, but he called me baby. That's just his colloquialism for saying goodbye. It's like people who say, I love you, talk to you later, right? If you
Yeah,
suddenly think the person loves you and you have not had time to develop love,
your ass is crazy.
it's
Because no,
not,
because
man.
I hear what you're saying.
Think
Because
about it for a
I
moment.
I
Think
talk
about this
like
for
that.
a moment. But right, exactly. So think about this for a moment. So if in fact what I'm looking for, what I'm searching for is someone who loves me and we've been talking and I think we've gotten a deep connection and you
Hmm.
say love you, talk to you later, I hear something altogether different. Men and women both do this very thing.
Hmm.
And then when it falls apart, they're crushed after only days. And that's why I talk about mental health and relationships, because there's something that's happened in your attachment style throughout
Hmm.
your childhood. There's something particularly that may have occurred in trauma in some space within your life, even as an adult. And you have now placed yourself in a space where your attachment style says, this person is mine very quickly. And this happens in many people. This is not just like, oops, there's one or two.
That's obsession. That's
Obsession?
crazy. That's
Not
not
quite.
obsession.
And
Crazy.
it's not crazy. It's not crazy. And I think that's the thing we have to get away from is this stigma that says that if you do certain things, it's absolutely a crazy way of functioning, when in all actuality, every person has a different way of surviving. And
Correct.
that's their way of surviving. In every situation, it's going to be different. So they might have to unlearn that, but somewhere along the way, they learned that that is a reality and that's how they're supposed to function. Now,
They need,
for
they need to undo that coping
it's,
mechanism.
you need to, okay, we got to work on that. But for them, within the life that they grew up,
Hmm.
that's a reality. And that's why it's so important that when you enter into relationships, that you're clear about where you are and what you're looking for and what you want to do. And so that's why I say black intimacy for the relationship you've always wanted, because most people don't know what the relationship is they want because they don't take the time to stop and sit down and think about it. They just want to get married, have somebody that's supposed to belong to them, and we don't do ownership anymore. We did that already. That didn't work out too well.
Correct. Now,
So,
I wanted to say this because now this is one thing I was told many moons ago. This was probably maybe about 10, 15 years. A conversation I was having, and I asked the young lady. I said, "Well, what are you looking for?" She said, "If I tell you, you're going to do that. You're going to put on a whole facade and make yourself be this type of person, and you're going to do everything that I'm asking you for as far as like what I'm looking for. You're going to mask yourself for at least about six
mm,
to 10 months, and then the real person comes out." So
oh, that's unfortunate.
no, because I don't think anybody should ever ask like what type of person you're looking for, because I think that person's going to mask themselves to
That's
become that.
unfortunate. That's unfortunate. If there's someone who is doing that, they themselves are the individual who's dealing with some mental health challenges, right? Because they're
Hmm.
trying to make sure that they're manipulating. They're likely sitting in a space of narcissism. They're being grandiose. They're making people believe that there's someone that they're not.
Right.
An individual who says to you, I would like someone who's caring and um, who speaks to me with kindness, someone who shows up and is consistent and so forth, right?
Hmm.
And you then start being that person just for 6 months, that's going to be very difficult. But if I just say, oh, I'm looking for someone who, takes me to dinner from time to time, and when you get down into what you need and what you want,
Hmm.
it's going to be completely different. I don't know if our age groups are how far apart we are, but I seem to think I'm a bit older than you.
I'm close to 50.
Oh, okay. So we're not far apart then. All right, all right.
I'm
So
close.
so let's think about it from this perspective,
Hmm.
that at 55, which is what I am,
Okay,
right?
I'm 44.
Okay, what I know that I need in my life is emotional and mental stability.
Okay.
So, if we have a disagreement and we agree to disagree on something, and then for the next 5 minutes or 3 days, you and I can't have a regular conversation where you still treat me with the kindness that you did before,
Hmm.
you're emotionally and mentally unstable. Because you should be able to agree to disagree and not mistreat someone
Correct.
immediately after.
Correct.
Now, you cannot fake that. It's
You can't.
going to show up.
You can't. You
But
can't
if I
fake
say
it.
I want you to take me to dinner, you can take me to dinner.
Yeah.
That's not what I need. I really don't need you to take me to. I can feed myself, right? Been doing that for a
Correct.
while now.
I understand it, but here we go, doctor. We live in this whole world. We live in this fabricated world where everything is based on what we see on this thing called social media, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody feels like this is the real thing. And you have these, I guess, the it couples. We
Mm-hmm.
lived through this through Will and Jada for the longest, especially people in our
Mm-hmm.
culture. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what's been going on for the few years is like, hold on, what's been came into the public eyes, like, I know this is what we had our love, we aim for black love, but do we want this as black love from the instances that them two have been going through since like 2018, 2019? That's in the court of public opinion right now.
So what's interesting about that is um, what they have that they consider to be black love may not be for everybody. I would
Correct.
not recommend that anyone take a picture of someone else's lives and
Mm-hmm.
decide that that's the life that they're going to live. That's preposterous. That's basically impossible.
Right.
At the same time, we have many people, other
Mm-hmm.
than the two of them, who have demonstrated what we would consider black love. right?
Mhm.
So we could
Correct.
look at Denzel and his wife.
Hmm.
Why did we choose Jada and Will? So follow me for a minute. We could
Okay.
look at even
Yeah, Barack and Michelle.
Barack and Michelle. Why did we choose Jada and Will? Because it's salacious.
Okay.
We could have chosen very easily, even if not marriage, right? Because there are couples out there that aren't married that are doing well, right? Uh-oh, did you disappear on me?
I'm here.
Oh, you disappeared on my screen. That was odd. Okay.
Oh, I see you.
So there there are couples like, Oprah and Stedman. They're not married, but we don't know everything about their relationship,
Correct.
right? So it's not salacious enough for us to say that's black love.
Hmm.
Lee Ralph and her husband have never fully lived in the same house.
Yeah, I was gonna say they
30
don't live
plus
together,
years.
right?
They've been married 30 plus years.
Right.
Love each other dearly, show up where they need to show up. But why didn't we select that as the example? Because the other is salacious, and our internal being, by way of just the way the chemical makeup of bodies are created,
Hmm.
runs toward the negative.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
if
Correct.
that's what you want to look at, then that's what you're going to say, oh, see, it never works. Look at these two people. But in all actuality, clearly it works for them in some way. It just got exposed and they didn't want it exposed in that way.
Correct. I mean, and that's one of my things is no, I don't put these individuals, all the individuals that we just named, what works for them is works for them because
Mhm.
outside of the glitz and glam and the camera that I see you on, whether it's a show you on, a commercial you on, a podcast you on, a talk show on regular TV, I know you have a publicist. I know you had somebody that has media trained you to say certain things. I don't know you when you step into your house and really see who you are.
Oh, absolutely. So,
You
but
know,
there are people around you that you do know. And the thing
hmm
is that when couples come together, they have to make a determination as to whether or not they're going to work through whatever concerns and issues they have in order to be the couple that's best for them in that time.
right.
There are going to be ebbs and flows, ups and downs, people who have all kinds of issues and concerns, but there
hmm
comes a point where you make a decision, choose to either be in it or to get out of it, one way or the other. And if every person that you're looking to is a celebrity to
hmm
get your image, your picture, your script, your blueprint for what relationship looks like, then
hmm
you're completely missing all of the people around you who really do have quality relationships. No relationship is perfect.
Correct. And it reminds me of 1993, Charles Barkley's commercial when he talked about role models, and everybody had a big absurd about him saying athletes and all. No, look towards your parents. Look toward that person that runs the store, the librarian, the teacher. They are your role models. You see them every day. You don't know us just because I can dunk a basketball, I can throw a football. You don't know me off this court.
Right.
I could be the worst person in the world.
And we've come to see some of that. I
Yes,
mean,
some of these
really
guys are truly just
terrible people. And not
terrible
just the
people.
guys, the women too.
Women
So
too,
I
yes.
I am not one who bashes any side, right? I think
Right.
that we all have to do what we need to do in order to ensure that we're having the best possible relationships we can have across the board, be that romantic or platonic. But you have to know what you want in a relationship for you to have a quality relationship. Otherwise, you walk into things believing what society says you're supposed to have, and 9 times out of 10, that's not it.
No, I mean, society will tell you anything right now. Like I was having a conversation earlier via Facebook. Like, where are we in society that the WNBA has to sit down and tell me what a woman is now?
Say who?
No,
When
no, no. I'm saying there's a big thing about the WNBA. They having a conversation now. Like, we need to put on doctrine. What is a woman to play in our league? No, like just because a few men want to be transgender or whatever they want to do. No, the rule is you know what a woman is. Why do I have to put a definition down what a woman is now?
oh, Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. So, okay, so that goes back to the conversation about whether or not men who are trans should be playing women's sports.
Correct.
Okay. And so, why does the WNBA have to do that?
Because the WNBA, well, one of the leagues.
Oh,
So
I
the
thought you were asking that
no, no,
question.
no, no,
Why
no,
does?
no,
Oh,
no. I
oh,
know
okay,
why it
okay.
happened. I know why it
Oh,
happened. I
oh,
was just
okay,
saying
okay. Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
no, I was just throwing it out there saying, what society has us to think. Like common sense tells you that, I'm more physically stronger than you.
Mm-hmm.
I am more possibly athletic than you, and things of that nature. So that's why we have these, these individualized sports where these are women's sports, these are men. I mean, they are the same sport, but this category is for men, this category is for women.
Mm-hmm.
So as
Mm-hmm.
again, what we were saying about idealizing yourself, Dr. Perry and his study on, oh yeah, media representation. I remember that episode. Somebody in the
Mm-hmm.
chat said that. But just idolizing these celebrities and athletes, like you don't know who these people are when they go through 2300 Jackson Street. You don't know who they are inside of that house. I'm sorry, I had to pick that house, but
No, I
that
got
you
you.
don't understand who they are once they close those doors. In front of the cameras,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the greatest person you ever seen. When I get
Mm-hmm.
behind those doors, I'm terrible.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, it goes back to what I said in the beginning that unless you understand the relationship that you want, what you
Mhm.
want in your life, then you're going to find yourself in a position where you're constantly chasing whatever society has told you you're supposed to have. And oftentimes it is so much more difficult to sit with ourselves and ask ourselves the questions and look in that mirror and analyze what we truly want, believe, value, etc. So we will accept whatever somebody else tells us. It was different back when I think our parents, you're a millennial still, because I think
Yeah.
I'm, yeah, so you're millennial still. I'm an
Mhm.
Xer. When my parents were coming along. Um, while my mom didn't necessarily have to get married because she needed a bank account or what have you, it was still a
Right.
part of the culture. My
Right.
grandparents, my grandmother wasn't getting a bank account without my grandfather, right?
Right.
Let alone buying a car, house, or anything else.
Right.
Times are changing such that men and women are beginning to forge their own paths, sometimes getting married later, coming into relationships later. But if you are looking to social media, which is a snapshot of a period of time in a person's life, to
Mhm.
tell you what you're supposed to have versus you knowing and understanding what you desire, what you want, and what you need, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble across the board. There is no man and no woman that can take from social media to build what is necessary to be in a quality relationship, a healthy relationship. You have to figure out what that is for you.
Correct. That is definitely correct. So, what role can therapy, community, spirituality, or supportive relationships play in like healing those traumas?
Yeah. Well, the biggest component of that is really going to be a matter of figuring out where you are in this space. So,
Hmm.
the reason I went and did license in marriage and family therapy is because it's systemic in the way that it thinks. So, what systems have you been a part of? What part of your culture has created your belief system and your value system? And to have the opportunity to question whether or not that still is true for you this day. Most of the people who come through my doors are not necessarily coupled, and I tell people all the time, when you walk through the door, you still come with your mom, your dad, your sisters, cousins, plays, all them come through the
Hmm.
doors with you because they help make up the person you are. And now you've hit a point where it's not working, so you need new tools. And
Right.
those new tools have to do with how to communicate effectively, how to understand what you're truly feeling, whether or not what you're feeling is really connected to the reality of the situation in this moment. Are you catastrophizing or in cognitive distortions or delusions? Are you truly in a place where you can even begin having a relationship with someone? Because I'm going to tell you now, your platonic relationships will show you what your romantic relationships are going to look like.
Mm.
So if you can't get along with your siblings,
Right.
if you can't get along with your friends down the street, if you in college and you fighting with everybody, your romantic relationships are going to be a mirror of that.
Correct. Correct. They will be, especially with your siblings, because these are ones that seen you from birth and you're growing up. So, your basic components, like we go back to the beginning, you spoke about those six emotions that you know. And those six emotions are getting tapped danced on as you're growing up. And now when you become an adult and you go to college or wherever you go at or to work, you haven't outgrown those six emotions. So now you're blowing up in
Or
meetings. You're doing
expanded those six emotions, right? So you
correct.
still need those six, but you have to expand beyond them
Right.
so that you can be more vocal and honest about what you're feeling, what you're thinking, how you've been impacted by the trauma. Because most people aren't, and I say this all the time, and people look at me like I'm, a little weird. There's a couple things. One, you can choose how you're going to feel about a situation. Nobody makes you feel anything. You get to
Right.
choose how you're going to feel. The second thing is most relationship problems are not the relationship itself. It's the
Hmm.
history of your own personal experience that you're bringing into the room in that present time.
Right.
You're not fighting with that person over what they said. You're fighting with the past person over what they said that you have now projected onto this current situation,
And you should never do
right?
that.
Well, but all day.
But it has
It happens because we haven't learned how not to do that, right? The truth of the matter is most people have not learned how not to do that, and they don't even know that that's what's actually happening.
well, I would say you don't see the person for themselves, because if you're looking in the past and I got a new person in front of me, like every man and every woman are their own selves. You may see a similarity, but it's probably nothing. You got to give that person their own opportunity. Just because
That
this
is
happened
very
doesn't mean that's going to happen again.
that's very evolved of you.
I try.
But
I try. I try
it
to
is,
evolve every now and
right?
again.
So you're in the space where you get that, right? I
Right.
mean, trust me when I say I make a living because most people are not in that space. I sell books because no, most people are not in that space. People, when I say strategic emotional resilience, first of all, people think that all resilience has to come through trauma. You can
Right.
develop that muscle without having to be traumatized.
Right.
You can be resilient without that. You can be strategic in how you work through your emotions without having to, project something onto another person. But
Hmm.
that's a space that's very evolved.
Right.
Many people walk through the world without having a clue what they're feeling unless they've looked at a TikTok or Instagram or what have you, and somebody told them that this is the feeling. But do you know that that's real and true for you?
You don't.
You
Just because
don't.
they said it doesn't mean it. But again, also I look at situations like that. When you have a new person in front of you in your past, you're not looking at the biggest thing, the common denominator. And I always tell my brothers, the hardest talk that you're ever gonna have in life is the mirror talk. And
Yeah.
that's you versus you.
Mhm.
There's nobody to blame it on anymore. It's you versus you.
You have to
So
sit in that space, like I said, and figure out why am I here? What do I want? What do I need? How do I go about getting it in a way that's healthy? Not that I'm
right.
manipulating and trying to usurp someone's authority and make people do what I want them to do, but I show up as the fullness of myself, and people will love me because I am fully me, authentically.
That's the key word. You are you. People like you because you are you. You
Mhm.
can only mask yourself for so long and hide through these things. I mean, well, let me take that back. Some people like you for you. Some people like you as much as they can get out of you.
Sure.
So, but that's another situation, another conversation for another day. Because some people stick around just until till the well dries up, I should say.
Yeah, and you have to be able to determine who those people are, right?
Right.
And once they're gone, recognize that they were there for a season,
Yeah.
and we all move
They were
on.
there for a
We grow.
season, but we
Yep.
know the reason. I
Hmm.
think I said it backwards. Some people are there for a reason. Some people are there for the season.
Right, right. Yeah.
Something in that nature.
Something like that. But I think, at the end of the day, what we have to recognize is that all of the work that gets done starts with our own mental health. our own emotional health. And 9 times out of 10, the place that we operate from is something to do with trauma. Now, it might not be a big T trauma, like you went to war or were hit in a car accident. It could be a little T trauma where, you had a friend who passed away when you were in school, right? In
Hmm.
elementary school. They died of cancer, and that feels like abandonment because that was your
Hmm.
best friend, and you came to school that Monday and they were no longer there, never coming back. But
Right.
that also happens with friends who move away.
Correct.
So when you don't take the time to figure out why you're functioning out of abandonment or functioning out of codependency or functioning even from a secure place of attachment, right?
Hmm.
I personally had, in my single days, had men tell me that they didn't want to be with me because I had a daddy. They didn't want to have to deal with me and
And
my the fact that I
that's
had a father who was a good father. Like now, so everybody got a daddy, right? Everybody has
mhm.
someone, right, brought them into this
They
earth.
could not manipulate you because your dad showed you certain ways. And I think it was one of these posts that is like, I want to show my daughter the world that she doesn't have to run to somebody else to see about, things of that nature. So,
And that doesn't make me not, and I use the term loosely, need a man. I need a man in my life, just like I needed my father in my life,
right.
right? But it's also more that I want one
Hmm.
rather than having to need one
Correct.
because I have a deficiency in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
I got you. But one more question before we get out of here.
All right. All right.
So, so what are some of the signs that a person may see when they're beginning to heal?
That a person is,
Person may see some of the signs that a person may see when they're beginning to heal, when they start the healing process, some of the things they
oh,
may start to see.
there's in their nervous system, they find that they're a lot more calm when things happen.
Okay.
You can literally feel the muscles relax in the body. So where your shoulders were once up to your neck and ears, they have relaxed. Less headaches, better sleep, less ruminating thoughts where they're just constantly worrying about someone or something, or will someone show up for them, or has that trauma, is it going to show up again, the shoe going to drop type of thing.
Hmm.
They find that they actually, and this, can sound very weird, but their bowel movements are more regular. Your body gets backed up in so many ways when you are stressed,
Right.
when you need to heal, not just the internal body, but also the emotions and the mind. You eat healthier, exercise becomes easier, you love yourself differently, and you see yourself differently. So, into me, see becomes a true into me,
Right.
see.
Thank you for coming today.
Absolutely. My
Thank you.
pleasure. I've
Thank you for
enjoyed it.
coming. Oh man, I'm glad you came. To give these individuals some knowledge. To be able to get themselves out of funk, get their trauma together, and understand what they want instead of just settling for things that they actually see.
Hmm. Hmm.
So thank you. I normally tell people like what we doing next week, but I don't know because I didn't book another
I
show
love
for
that.
this.
Listen, I love that. I think it's fabulous that you took time off. I don't think we do enough of that, to really take time for ourselves and to stop and figure out what we want to do next. And the fact that you had the ability to do that for whatever reason, kudos.
Well, thank you, and I also thank you for following the show and reaching out to me. And multiple people that watch the show, then like, when is it coming back? And I'm like, I don't know. And so I'm guessing that's part of the purpose, just to have these conversations because that's the slogan. You never know what anybody's going through. So I'm
Mhm.
guessing I need to start booking more guests, that you found out, well, that you came and sought me out. And I said,
Mhm.
okay. And, so I guess I need to possibly go back to where I was getting my individuals at, and go from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. So, just check the web page, just check the Instagram page, and I'll let you guys know if something is going on next week. I kind of think something's going on next week. I just don't know who yet. I've seen a couple more emails come through, so we got to figure this out of what we want to do from there. But thank you again. And if anybody's looking for Dr. Janelle, you see her name floating across the bottom of the screen, you can reach her at www.drjanelle.com. You have any handles as far as like Facebook,
I
Instagram?
do. My Instagram is at Dr. Janelle.
Okay.
My TikTok is at Dr. Janelle.lmft. And then I'm on LinkedIn and the website. You can get my books on the website and all that kind of good stuff too. And I go and I speak at all kinds of occasions. So people can always send me a request to come out and speak on a host of topics. One of the most people's favorites is mental health and sexual wellness. They love
Okay.
it when I come out and do that for them. So
Oh, see, there's another topic, y'all. I can bring her back in about 2 months or so to say, hey, she can come back in 2 months. I'll see if that's the case. And I normally get a book, a signed book, so I got to reach out to you.
oh
I'll
yeah, let me
actually
know.
email
Yes,
you about that because I have most all the guest books around here somewhere, but I normally
absolutely.
get a
Well, you
book.
need to
So
be reading them. You can't just be getting signed copies.
no, no,
I'm
I
joking.
do.
I'm joking.
No, I
I'm
get it.
joking.
I do get into them, but it's so many that come. It's like, all
Yeah,
right, then I got to stop this one and do this one. So kind of
I
just
get it.
like anybody want them, I'm just like, here you go.
I get it.
Um,
I get
so,
it.
but no,
Well, thank
I'll
you for
keep
having me.
yours. All right. Thank y'all, man. Same time, same place. Just check the IG page. That's Unfiltered Tales on IG, and we'll let you know if we'll be back. It's going on winter time. It's going on a fall time, so I'll let you know if I'm changing the dates from Tuesday to Wednesday, so y'all know how I fluctuate with the fall and springtime. It goes from Tuesday to Wednesday. I feel like more people in the house in the fall on Wednesday than they in the summertime. So thank you again, Dr. Janelle, and we'll see you guys later.
Take care.
All right.